So if you did not have anyone telling you about God, about Islam,
I believe the same thing.
Your intellect is enough to make you come away from the worship of false gods or worship of your own self, worship of the creation, or worship of multiple deities. You will come to realize that there is a creator of this cosmos. You'll also come to realize that this creator is absolute, independent, yeah, and one. And you also come to realize that the creator is worthy of our worship. Okay? And then if you don't worship that creator, you know, what can I say?
Why did your creator come 650 years after Christ was resurrected?
No.
That's what I don't understand.
Fine. Islam is not a new religion, no. Contrary to people's mistaken perception. Islam is the only religion, the only true God has sent with the first man, Adam, and starting with him through all the prophets and messengers.
But this is where the debate happens.
Yeah, so we do not believe there's more than one God. It's the same God, the God of Abraham, the God of Moses, the God of Jacob, the God of Solomon, the God of Jesus, the God of Muhammad. Peace be upon all the prophets. There is only one God, and this is the one God that every prophet and messengers came to tell people to worship. None but that God, right? So when Prophet Moses came, he did not bring something called Judaism.
Can I just ask you a question? So you speak about the prophets. So you believe Jesus is a prophet.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So the prophecies in Daniel and Isaiah about Emmanuel and God with us, and he shall be born from a virgin. What do you think of those prophecies?
Sure. Come back to this point. Let me finish this one. So if you want to take this down, so this is a book review by Hyde Sidki from the University of Chicago.
H-Y-T-H-E-M.
Yeah. It's published in this academic journal.
Sorry, what's his surname?
Sidki.
S-I-D-K-Y.
Right.
Okay, Sidki.
Yeah. So this is the reference if you want. You might have to type it down. Al-Usur al-Usta.
I will type in, I will find that from him.
Yeah. So
on academia, yeah.
Academia.edu. Right. So now when
I'm
he...
sending you that, by the way, Vance.
Yeah. Let me... I would just wanted to show you a snapshot.
I might give you another angle of how we understand Islam and Muslims. When you ask a question, do we, as the brother says, we all born Muslims in the sense of...
We're not born Muslim.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
God,
You're saying
I
that.
know.
I don't
Okay,
say that.
so let's explain to the friend here.
Yeah.
When you are born, were you born with a clear conscience, or were you already born depraved, like you're going to go to hell straight away, or God has given you a clean slate?
What does the Bible say, Barney? We are all born.
And then we'll come back to Daniel's
Are
prophecies.
we born final? Are we born
depraved, or are you born with a clean slate?
No, we are born depraved.
Yeah.
So God has already created you with a negative bank account, where you're already...
Yeah,
You're
you
already
know how it came about. You know how it came about.
No, it's not how it came about.
It's the fall, yes, it is.
It's the
It's the
status
fall of Adam.
But let's do that. When you were born,
The first man was created, and you and I, all of us here, stand in the image of the Most High God.
what do you mean?
God himself chose to make a being in his image.
What do you mean by image?
Likeness, image, form.
Oh, so God
when you
is
see me, wait a minute, when you see me,
Explain, yeah.
and I walk away from you on two legs, and you see my head and shoulders and my arms swinging, you see the form of God moving.
I see. So God has two legs, two hands.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
And is he a man or
And
one
he
second.
made us.
Is he a man or a woman?
He's a man.
Man. So he
Yeah,
has a.
he's definitely
so,
male.
So he's a man.
Yeah.
Does he have a
Yeah.
beard?
And he made. That's not for me to say. Looks, I
Okay.
couldn't say.
He looks
but
like a male.
He's a male.
He looks like a male.
Yeah, like you.
Okay.
A human.
Okay, human.
So now he made man in his image.
But I need to explore that bit further.
Okay.
He looks like a man. Inside as well? Like, does he have a liver? An intestine?
That is
And a kidney?
way beyond our comprehension.
But that's
You know
what you
why?
are
No,
presenting
no.
to us.
I'm saying,
it's
no,
worth
I'm
asking
saying-
this question.
the heart,
When you
yeah.
present
I'm saying-
God as someone who
Wait,
looks
wait,
like
wait,
you,
wait.
His form
Wait, just
and
wait a
his
sec.
image.
Wait a second. You get a glass of water, put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
It turns into ice. put in a kettle, it turns into steam. It's still water. Look at this tree here. This tree doesn't have leaves on it now. We don't know if there's roots there because we can't see the roots.
Sure.
Are the roots the tree? Is the trunk the tree? Are the leaves the tree? Are the branches the tree? It's a tree. So when you look at all this thing about
Can I
the
answer the
Trinity
question?
that we always
The
going to have,
roots are part of the tree.
Yeah,
The
leaves.
trunk is part of the tree. The leaves are part of the tree.
And the ice and the
Together,
water?
let's talk about the tree first. Together, it's a tree.
Yeah.
So you can't call the leaf a tree. It's a part.
you cannot.
So I can understand the reason you use the example is God is like a trinity. So in this concept, the analogy, if you do like for like analogy understanding wise, the
No,
sun.
but I haven't finished the analogy because you think I'm talking about the Trinity. I'm not talking about the Trinity now. I'm talking about the
Please
form
explain.
of God.
Yeah.
So when you say, here's a beautiful tree over here. It's got
Sure.
leaves on it. It's got. It's a tree. Is a tree. Is a tree.
This
You
is
get trees
tree.
in America. You get a tree over here. You get a tree everywhere. We don't know what the face of that tree looks like. We don't know what it looks like with leaves on it. We don't know. At times it was a dead seed in the ground and it came to life. The same as these leaves. They die and they come back. Same as Jesus. Died, resurrected.
But you're answering in relation to the question about God looks like us.
Yes.
I mean, I could have used vulgar examples, which I'm not. I'm simply asking, does he have a kidney? Because you know what the kidney does?
No, look.
Kidney,
Look, let me just tell
it,
you now.
it filters
Can I just-
a
we
lot
know
of
that.
things,
We know that.
and then
We
you
not
get the
just
waste
ask-
product
This is a
out.
straw man. This
It's not
is
a straw man, I
No,
get.
no, no.
Yeah,
Because it says
he
life.
makes us.
Do you know
No,
how I would
it's a
understand
straw
that?
man.
I would say rather, look,
easy
when it
for
talks
you.
about image,
I
it's
didn't
talking
make
about,
him.
it talks about the characteristics. For example, God is merciful. He made human beings also to be merciful.
Yeah.
But the mercy that God has and human being has, quantitatively, qualitatively, they're not the same, right? It's just similarity in the names and descriptions only. God is infinitely all merciful. Our mercy is,
It's truthful,
very little that we have been
truthful,
given.
honest,
God
all
is
this.
all truthful, but He's given some truth to us. Kindness, likewise, God is kind and just.
There
So
are some things
in
we
that
agree with here,
in
and I
that
agree with that.
aspect, I can understand what you mean by image.
Yeah.
Now the question goes back.
Likeness.
The question
Don't
goes
go to
back.
physicality.
Remember what you said. Depraved. When God created Adam, peace be upon Adam, right? Were you there with your own volition and will?
Yeah, I was locked up in his body.
No. Do you remember what I said?
No.
With your own volition and will, that when he disobeyed God's command, you were fully aware of it, you knew or you heard it, seen it, you were fully aware, conscious about it, and you agreed with it, and when he did it, you were part of it.
obliged.
Or you had no recollection whatsoever, you do not even have a clue that you were there involved in this scenario. Which one is it?
I had no clue that I was involved in that scenario.
Right.
No clue.
It's not your
Good.
fault, it's
So
not.
Definitely.
a sin in the eyes of God is an act of willful disobedience of a willing agent,
Yeah.
a free-willing agent who can actually do that act. For example, I am not going to be sinful for saving people over there. If something happens, the only way I can save is having wings and fly over there. I don't have wings, so I cannot be responsible for that because I do not have the capacity. Yeah? If I had no will of committing that act of disobedience in the Garden of Eden, I was not
Adam
part
did.
of it, then I am not guilty of that crime whatsoever. It will be unjust of anyone, let alone God, to make me guilty and then depraved eventually for a crime that I had nothing to do with. For example, you know when in Australia and elsewhere, like in India now, happening now, Muslims are being killed, even an 8-year-old, 9-year-old. Are you
in
guilty?
Australia
In India now. Australia, you know how in the mosque attack, yeah,
and
we know.
Christians, yeah.
We're talking about the attack in the mosques.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guilty of the crime that happened or is happening now when you are here and you had nothing to do with it? Can
that's
we
true.
say you should be punished because of what the Modi government is doing?
No, we
Obviously
understand
not.
exactly
Obviously
what
not,
you're saying.
right.
Same
So
reason.
justice demands that we do not punish people who are innocent of the crimes.
Yeah.
I don't see it's fair or just to punish human beings for the crime or for the sin of Prophet Adam. It is
The
totally unfair.
forefathers.
Why?
And then saying, oh, It's already done. No, it is unjust because God is the most just being
He is.
in your own understanding, correct?
He is righteous.
You cannot then say God makes you guilty for a crime that you didn't commit.
No, I'll tell you how it happens. He made Adam in his likeness, in his image, and from Adam, he took a part and made a woman.
Hold on, are you trying to say he
Let him
make
carry
another
on.
dog?
Brother,
God?
let him carry on. Let him
Made
carry on.
another
I want to
woman.
see how you justify
No,
you being
God
guilty.
is God. Men are men. Men
Brother,
are men.
we want to
And you
understand
can
how
also
this is
say,
justified.
Men in the image of God, men are with a small g, God. We are gods in the image of God.
Carry on.
Most High.
Carry on. So
Anyway,
how do
so
you
now-
justify
okay, let me
you and I guilty of a crime of
Wait a
Adam?
minute, let me just get to you. So God makes Adam the forefather of every man on the human, on this globe. He's the father of you and me. So he is given a command from God.
With the free will.
And he says, there's a tree.
Yeah, with the free will.
It's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but there's also a tree, the tree of life. If you eat from the tree of life, you will live. If you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will surely die. And Adam took that part that his wife played, and he partook of that fruit that God said, do not eat.
You still don't have
If you
any
eat from
involvement. You don't have any involvement.
It
You,
says,
you both, you don't have any
if you
involvement.
eat from
Please,
that,
brother, I need to. I'm
if you
missing
eat
it.
from that,
Carry on.
you
I need to
will
understand how this
surely
is
die.
justifiable.
So
Carry on.
Adam does exactly that. He partakes of that fruit, and the moment that he does, he is immediately aware of things that he was never aware of before.
That's Adam.
That's Adam and Eve. They both realize they have sinned against God. And God comes to him
Yep.
and says to him, where are you? And he says, we are here. He hiding. He says, why are you hiding? Because you know that you've eaten from that tree. And
No, I don't. Adam.
Adam, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you've eaten from that tree. We did. And now that is my prerogative as your God. I will say to you that you are now guilty of sin, and because of that sin, you have brought the whole of creation under bondage. And all of creation, plus all the offspring of Adam and Eve, are born under that curse. of
That's
the
not what
sin.
I'm asking you for.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You misunderstood.
So now,
I'm
no,
a-
no, no,
Okay,
I know
carry on.
what you're
Carry
saying.
on.
So now,
What am I saying?
6,000 years later,
Yeah.
here I am. I'm walking on earth here, and I am a bumbling idiot. I do many things I shouldn't be doing, just by my own choice. From the time that I'm born, I do things that I've never ever thought I was capable of doing, but I did them stupidly. Carried on doing those things, bumping my head everywhere. And what was I doing?
Yeah.
I was acting out the nature of my forefather in my blood.
That's what I'm asking
That
you for.
sin came as in my blood, in yours too. Are you without sin?
Okay, let me explain now.
Oh no, no, I want to ask you. Are you
I'm-
without sin? Answer me
going,
that.
I'm going to explain. So
Ask
far.
you, are you without sin?
Let me
No,
explain.
no, please tell me. Are you without sin?
Whose sin? Adam's sin? I'm
No,
without
no.
Adam's sin.
I'm asking you today.
Our conversation.
Did you do things in the week or in
Sure.
your past life?
I've heard you. I've heard you. I don't have a past life. I'm not a Hindu. I'm a Muslim.
Life. No, I'm not talking about first life. I'm talking about a
Sure.
few years ago.
Right. So
up to now.
stay there. I'm answering. Now listen.
Okay.
It is very important to focus on the subject we're discussing. Remember what we're discussing? It's become gone to several tangents. The issue is, how do you call God the most just when you are guilty of a crime that you did not commit, crime of Adam and Eve. I am not talking about the consequences. In fact, Adam wasn't the first sinner.
No, you are
Sin
guilty.
did not come into the world because of Adam.
Yeah, it did.
I'll
That's
tell you
where
why
it
you're
came.
mistaken.
That's where it came.
Satan was the first sinner. Satan sinned
Disobey,
before Adam.
Yeah, sure.
So
No, I'm
sin,
glad you said
if you
that.
if you really believe that sin came into the world because of what Adam did, it's totally mistaken.
Wrong, yeah. It's
You're not here because of Adam's sin. Sin has already been committed by Satan, right?
But
This is a different issue.
disobey,
The issue is, do you carry the guilt, the crime of Adam when you were not even there when he committed the crime?
Yes. we
So
do.
I'm saying, no, you don't, because you are not guilty of the crime what Adam and
You're
Eve
not
did.
there.
No,
If
you
brother,
are
please
guilty.
listen.
You know why? Because
Listen.
that sin that,
That
Adam
sin,
committed, hey,
did you commit that sin?
that sin that Adam committed
Did you commit that sin?
is perpetuating the whole world to sin.
That's what God says.
Are you saying, if you commit a sin, I can punish your children and your grandchildren until the whole
No,
world?
God says the results
One
of
moment.
that sin. No,
One
no, let me
moment.
answer
One-
that
no, one
question.
moment.
But you just
Please,
asked the
one
question.
moment.
You said to him, are you saying...
One moment.
Yeah.
Is it justified in the sight of God to punish your son, daughter, children, your grandchildren
The results.
for a crime that you have committed?
The results of that
I'm
sin.
not talking about results. For a crime
But
that you
you-
commit, can God punish your children and grandchildren?
He can.
Because he
you know
can.
why?
And it's just to do that.
Yes,
and
he's just perfectly
because
So-
of the
just to do
sin
that.
in
Because we're
mankind,
talking
Okay.
the results of that
Wait.
sin.
sinning against him.
Okay, have you committed any crime?
Oh, many.
Many. So we can punish your children for that.
And
No, the results of that
The
crime.
result of my crimes, my sins.
Because you said,
Will be passed on.
you said it's just for the children to be punished for their parents' crimes. So if you have committed a crime, say you committed a crime, we can put your children on the death penalty or on the
No,
lethal
you're
injection
twisting-
or
you're twisting
behind the
words.
prison.
You're
Can
twisting
we
words now.
punish your children
You're
for a
twisting words.
crime that you have personally committed?
No, what you
I'm
need
not-
to know is that.
Can you answer that question directly?
No, okay, I'll tell you something.
What for?
If
Have one conversation, brother. Yeah?
Because I...
if you drink the
we-
water that is poisoned, and my children drink the water that is poisoned,
If they don't drink,
they will all die.
if
from
they
that
don't drink,
poison.
if they don't drink,
If they don't drink from that, they're gonna
Guys,
live.
you know what?
good.
we
That's what
go
you're saying.
round in
Did
circles.
you commit the sin with Adam, willingly, consciously, with your own choice and will?
Look,
You said no. That
No.
means you did not commit that crime. And how are you justifying that you are guilty of that crime that you had nothing to do with it?
Because this is what the scripture says.
Then the
That
scripture,
by one man,
the scripture needs to be examined because it doesn't make sense.
one
How?
man,
One moment.
by one man, sin
Do you
came
agree?
into the world.
One second, my friend.
Okay.
Do you agree?
No.
We can punish your children
No.
for the crimes
No,
that you
it's not what
commit.
we're saying. You see, what you're doing is you are kettling now the conversation.
What am I doing?
Kettling. It's like when the police put fence and they coral you in certain thing. So what you do, you're very good at doing it.
Carry on.
And a couple of sound bites going backwards and
Sound
forwards
bites,
like this.
kettling, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not a defense, by the way. You need to provide a good sound argument against what I said.
Well, if you kept quiet, then I would be able
Carry
to.
on.
Okay. When you take a conversation like this, you can go round and round in circles. Why? Because you interpret,
Straw man
like you said
argument.
in the beginning,
Respond
you
with a
interpret the
nice,
scripture
solid argument.
differently to what we do. So here we are, interpreting Genesis, the book of Genesis. So, do you say, here's the shortcut for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my defense of the conversation. Do you say every single word, do Muslims say that, every single word from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 until the end of Genesis is true and infallible?
No.
Okay, so your interpretation of Genesis and the fall and Satan is different to the Judeo-Christian version of Genesis.
It can be different, but that's not,
It's
that's not the
different.
point.
So,
My point is very simple, which let me remind you again. If you commit a crime yourself,
No, but
Is it
we didn't start
justifiable?
the conversation speaking
Please,
about
please,
this.
please, please. It's
You
important that you address
no,
that.
It's important that you address it because
Are you gonna
I'm
address
addressing
this?
it.
Are you
I'm
gonna
saying
address
to
this?
you,
Are you gonna address
your
this?
presuppositions
No, are you gonna address
that you
this?
have for this conversation and the sin and the fall of the world.
Do
Where
you-
did that conversation start?
Okay,
We
remember
were
what I said.
speaking about
Remember what I
man
said.
and God becoming
Remember what I
man.
said.
You've taken